And just to let you know that this is indeed a sponsored video by Leapwing. They make a series of great plugin products that I encourage you to check out. But for today, we're going to focus on RootOne. What's up, fam? It's your boy Demuir here, purveyor of all sounds underground. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel today, where I'll be discussing Leapwing Audio's RootOne plugin and why I think it's going to be absolutely essential to your production, especially if you're a sample-based heavy producer like myself, working with low frequencies. This plugin is absolutely amazing. But before I jump into the details, what I need from you is that SLC. Hit subscribe, like, comment, and more importantly, hit the notifications bell to stay in touch with the new videos that we have up and coming. So first point here is to understand, what does this plugin do? And I described the value at the top in terms of you being able to work with samples that have a lot of low frequencies in them to get that extra oomph. But basically what the RootOne plugin does, it adds subharmonic information that is not existing in the original signal. So therefore what you get is almost like a parallel compression effect, where you're hearing the original signal plus some extra oomph added to it. But it's the oomph part that is where the value is in this plugin. And I'm going to jump in and just talk through all of the details, and I'm sure and very certain you're going to find value from it. So check it out. Let's look at my screen here. This is the cosmetics of the plugin. Let me highlight this and make sure it's turned on. So the framework of the plugin itself, we have Leapwing here. We have some presets that already come installed in the plugin for bass, drums, melodic stuff, bus stuff, and then there's a setting to take you back to 0. So I'm going to describe each of the sections here, which are as follows. You have the subharmonics, harmonics, then you have the parallel compression thing I was talking about, where there's the original signal mixed with whatever's going on in here between the subharmonics and harmonics to get your new output. To go further, you have the drive, like a typical distortion based plugin where you can turn up the drive and the effect. Then you have some really cool stuff dealing with dynamics, which I'll get into a bit later. And then the attack / decay, which is more transient based stuff. And you have drive, color, and low pass stuff here with the harmonics. All right, so why don't we just jump into an actual set here that I'm working on. All right, so this leads me to point number 2. Let's jump in specifically in terms of what the subharmonics are. So before I jump into those specific details, let's listen to what I'm working with. And I must recommend wear headphones or be in your studio and ensure your subwoofer's on to hear everything that I'm about to hear. All right, so let's check it out. This is a track I'm working on called You Be Doing It, and here's the filtered bass sample part of it. Let's listen to it without any of RootOne's influence on it. Sounds dope too, and what I'd normally do is use the SPL to beef it up a bit, so let's listen to it with the SPL. So you hear a little bit of sub stuff there, but it still sounds pretty grimy. So let's see what the RootOne can do here. And I will say, as I work through this, I love the fact that they've described the subharmonics as follows. So you have sub with crossover frequencies between 10 hertz and I think it's 30 hertz here, which is great. And then from 36 to 56 hertz, you have the thump piece, and then part of the thump piece is 62 hertz to 104, and then from a punch perspective, anything between 110 to 196 hertz. Great ways to describe bass, and depending on the signal material you're working with, whether it's a filtered bass sample like we have here, a kick drum, an electric bass, or a sub bass or synth of some sort, it's really great to just get some sort of description in terms of the frequency ranges you're working with. So that's a plus there. So let's listen to what RootOne does here. I'm going to disable it for a second. Let's listen to the raw signal again. Now let's get into RootOne. So right off the bat, you're getting this thumpy stuff right here. And this is the other cool piece I love about this plugin. You can solo out the different bands. So this might be a little hard to hear if you're not wearing headphones or if you don't have your sub on, but you can hear the sub stuff going on here. Whereas on this part, you're not really hearing much. It's quite low, but it's there. And I love this because I could decide, all right, I only want the good parts of what's complementing my filtered bass sample in this example. So I would probably decide to mute this piece out because it's just very low frequency information. You're not going to hear anyway on a system speakers, and it just takes energy away from the mix. But already off the bat, it sounded dope. Like, let's mess with this punch here. For exaggerated purposes, I'm going way up. That's dope. That's added a lot of flavor to the signal. And here's the other thing I was talking about. You know, with the parallel stuff, I could take the original signal out just to hear what it's doing in terms of what it's adding musically to my original signal, which is the filtered bass line in this case. Very crazy stuff. Liking what I'm hearing so far. All right, so let's jump into point number 3, which is the harmonics section here. This is very similar to my other tips I've shared before in terms of adding distortion to a kick or snare, just to get a bit more harmonics out of that signal or the material you're working with. And that generally pierces through any crappy Bluetooth speaker, little tiny pod bass earbuds, you know, just to make sure your stuff is coming through with a snap. So let's mess with this and see what we get out of it. I'm going to turn on the original signal just so I can hear the overall of what it's doing. Ooh. Let's mess with the drive a bit. Let's see what color does. Oh, I like that. And then you got some low pass stuff here just on the harmonics, which is brilliant. It's absolute and complete control. So, I mean, I heard subtle differences in that, and I love this harmonics option, or actually the add-on to this, because it's just really telling you, here's some more control in terms of what you want this frequency or this instrument to, not frequency, but the signal or instrument to sound like on a dull pair of speakers by adding harmonics, which is super cool. So that's the harmonics piece with drive and color, and then you have the low pass option here just to add a little bit more saturation into the signal. Okay, so point number 4, I'm going to call this an advantage of receiving surgical control here. And what I mean by this is within the subharmonics, like I was sharing earlier, you also have a drive option, which is very similar to distortion. So let's play it and I'll speak over it. So let's add a little drive to this piece. Let's go into the punch. And then we have the dynamics here, which is at 100, you're getting the most dynamics in that particular signal band, or you're basically cutting down on the transients the lower you go. I want to hear the difference there, see if we get much. Do it to all of them. That's interesting, man. think we'll hear a bit more with the decay. But this is likely a piece here, because we're dealing with low bass frequencies. I don't see any reason why I would want to limit the amount of dynamics for this particular situation. So I'm just going to let that roll. But I could see it playing a role if there's like kick drums and bass and other frequencies happening within your sample material that you want to sort of squash the dynamics a little bit, you know, almost like a compression, but not really in this case because it's so musical, where you'd want to limit that from happening. Like sometimes you get a bass line and then there's a huge kick drum underneath it, and no matter how much EQing you do, you still hear it in there. So this could be handy for that. Let's see what decay does, because I believe this works very much like a transient shaper. So the longer the decay, you're essentially extending the transient, and the shorter, you're almost adding like it's quite similar to cutoff, where you're limiting the transient so things sound a bit shorter in a sense. So let's check it out. Go up with the decay. Let's try it on a punch signal. Oh yeah, you really hear it there. Let's solo it. Yeah. So again, it makes sense that this is shorter here. It just sounds right. Could also control the attack. Let's listen to the other band. Wow. This is crazy. And as suspected, we won't hear anything in the lower band between 10 and 36 hertz. Pretty cool stuff. I just love the complete control that this is giving me within each of those bands from a drive, dynamics, and decay perspective on the transients and managing them as such. So really cool stuff for the space frequency. When we just come back to the original sound, like nothing against my SPL here. It's cool, but it don't sound like this, where I'm getting that lower thump in there, you know, like this is just crazy. Not sure what's happening there. It's a little bit off. Figure it out later. But that bass frequency doesn't sound the way I had it with just the SPL. It's a huge difference, and it's probably one of the biggest reasons why I'm definitely going to incorporate this in my workflow. So point number 5, what are the types of signals or instruments you would use this on? Definitely would use this on a kick drum, drums in general, a drum mix bus, for example, electric bass, sub bass, electric piano, because it has a lot of crossover of low frequency harmonics that happen there, or even a Wurlitzer for that matter. All of those things where there's bass pieces you want to control more succinctly, RootOne plugin is perfect for that. So that's generally how I will be incorporating this into my workflow, in addition to the example you heard here with the filtered samples. All right, so point number 6, and just my overall conclusion on the price point. This is currently priced at €199 overall, so it's a bit pricey, but I would say it's worth every dollar, because I'm certain I can probably get to the sound that this is achieving, but I'd have to do it not only with the SPL, but probably with a couple of other plugins to just get it to do what this is doing. And I just love the fact it's just all in one. It's plug and play, ready to go with the presets that they have there. You can also leverage this on a vocal, for example, if you have like a group of people singing and you just want to give it a little subharmonic boost in the lower end. You can get that with a great degree of control. So I see massive opportunities with this, especially if you're in underground electronic music production, to apply this into your workflow. So it's absolutely worth every dollar in my opinion, and you should absolutely go for its use. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts on Leapwing's RootOne plugin with the sub-harmonics and harmonic features and control that it has. Let me know your thoughts on this one. I'd love to hear from you. I usually join the conversation within 48 hours of posting these videos, so let me know what you think about this one. I think it's worth every dollar, as I said earlier, and I generally believe that Leapwing has a number of great products available in their arsenal. Although it is a sponsored video, I do think it's a great plugin overall to have.